Hi, Pastor Theo.
Hey, Sarah.
My name is Sarah, and I'm part of the Living Archives Project, where we are collecting stories of how various communities were impacted by COVID-19. Today is January 19th, 2023, and this week there were a reported 315 cases of COVID-19 in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg County area, which shows a slight increase of 12% over the last 2 weeks. Therefore, we are each comfortable not wearing a mask. Would you introduce yourself?
Hey, Sarah. I am Pastor Theo Schaefer, and I am a tall African-American male with nice hair, brown eyes, but you can't tell because they're very red because I'm sleepy and tired. I'm wearing a blue suit with a black tie and a pair of reading glasses, not because I need them, but because I like to keep the wind out of my eyes. And I have a huge smile and a very charismatic voice.
Love it. Well, Thank you for that introduction.
Yes, ma'am.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Pastor Theo.
So, as my title would indicate, I am a local pastor here in Charlotte.
Okay.
I pastor one of the greatest families in the kingdom. I don't say church because we're one church in the kingdom of God according to our faith. But I have a great community. It's a gumbo. It's a gumbo of thugs and theologians, and we started after the Charlotte riots by mentoring Latino and Black kids in the Sugar Creek, North Tryon area, and also working alongside law enforcement and also serving the homeless. That small group of volunteers turned into a small group Bible study where all we did was gather together, eat together. Our kids ate together. We grew in the word and in the faith, and we went out in the community and served ferociously. And it's grown into a missional family, and one I'm very proud of because I'm not a fan of religion. I'm not a fan of tradition, and it's a great Holy Spirit-filled missional family-focused group, and it's really dope. I also work in law enforcement at the time of this recording. I serve as the employee spiritual wellness and development supervisor for the local police department here in Charlotte. Okay. And for the last 5 years, going on 6, I've served, 6 going on 7. I served as a liaison between the police department and the community, a bridge builder between marketplace companies and organizations and the faith community. But also, more importantly, alongside my colleagues, we train, equip, and support law enforcement officers and the employees and their families in their spiritual journey outside of religious context, so that their spiritual health is at its best when they're out there performing. Nice. No, it's fine, girl. It's fine. In addition to that, we have a small business and a small nonprofit that we've had, theoschaefer.com, almost 15 years, since my 20s. And,
wow.
Other than that, I'm a beautiful family, an incredible wife of 14 years and 3 amazing kids. And my incredible wife, Patrice, who partners with me everything we do, and our awesome kids, Theopolis the 4th, Riley, Grace, and Thaddeus. Yeah, that's my everything. They're the best. So that's a. I'll share more in the context of the conversation.
Yeah, how old are the kids?
Theopolis is 9 at the time of this recording. Riley Grace is 7, and Thaddeus is 3.
Okay, wow.
Girl,
great
yes.
ages.
Yes.
Busy ages.
Extremely.
I bet. Yeah. So how was that being a father kind of when this all happened and the kids were had to stay
No, they were
home?
in school and they had to come home.
Yeah.
We had never faced anything like this. Yeah. And explaining to our kids, and because we are a family that subscribes to the Christian faith, hope is the substratum of our faith, right? And so trying to explain to our kids why they can't go outside and play.
Yeah.
Why they can't go play with their friends, but also too, when some sense of new normalcy started coming, where people could come outside with masks on, trying to explain to kids that are supposed to have faith and hope to be cautious, trepidatious, trying to stay away from fear, but you can't touch anybody, talk to anybody, because nobody knows what this is. Seeing them struggle in class in front of a screen on Zoom and not have any social interaction, any opportunities to grow and learn as a human being, how to be a better human being to others, because you can't physically interact. Even learning social clues, mannerisms, gestures, body language, how to engage with the teacher, how to really absorb what she's learning. And with my kids, we're all high capacity thinkers and dreamers.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to keep our attention when we're staring at a screen. So it was difficult in its own way. And then while at the same time trying to keep them encouraged, trying to keep a poker face, and you still deal with the same fears you're helping them to navigate. You're scared, you're petrified, having to lead your home as a father and as a husband, and then as a pastor. How do you walk a community and a family of believers or congregants through a time when what you're teaching and preaching doesn't appear to have a practical application, right? Like what you're inspiring and instilling in them and shepherding them through.
Yeah. When
they go outside, it's totally different.
Yeah.
You know? And I guess it's be a good, I don't know if you're going to ask the question, but how do you deal with deaths? How do you deal with trauma? And also fighting against a natural proclivity within our humanity to look for hope in anything and believe anything, but not be fooled by the news without doing your own research.
Yeah.
Because at the time, nobody knew what was really going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, do you get a shot? Do you not get a shot? Or are we dying? Is this the apocalypse? You know, poor Fauci, because he's the face of it all. Do you subscribe to what he's saying? Do you subscribe to what your preferred news station is saying, or your news network? How to navigate that and still stay true to the edicts of our faith, which is to love your neighbor, right? And all of that was and is a thing.
Yeah.
All the things, right?
How did you do it?
How did I do it?
How did you do it, Pastor Theo?
How did we do it? How are we doing it? So these are things that we did or either learned, right? So I'm not sharing it from a level of like, hey, we mastered this, or there was a playbook.
For sure.
But no. First thing I'll say is honesty. This is what I mean. Honesty is being very truthful and brutally honest with yourself. Where are you at? How do you feel? What's going on? How are you processing what's happening? How is your relationship with God? Your relationship with your family? Where are you right now?
Yeah.
And being able to wrestle with that and then own that, good or bad, right? And then be honest with your spouse, your partner, your significant other. Then be honest with your kids, your family. Then be honest with those that you lead. And once you're honest, then you can more purely hold on to some form of hope. If you're outside of religious context, maybe your hope is in a person you care about, or hope is in an ideal, right? Things will get better. That's an ideal. That's a concept, right?
Yeah.
Hoping that within a faith or religious context, it's hoping in greater power, or the power within a collective community of humanity. And for us, it would say, okay, here's where we are with our honesty. Here's where we are, right? And here is our hope in Jesus Christ. Our hope is built on nothing less. Now let's all struggle and crawl to get there. Let's just try. and you do your best, and you don't have any regrets, and you do your best to love. You love your neighbor, you love your community, you love one another. You do your best to do what's right, and you do your best to stay honest, and you let the chips fall where they may. And if you're giving it your best effort, regardless of the outcome, that's something you can live with. I'll stop there. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Usually I ask this question at the beginning and I forgot because we just jumped right in. But are you from Charlotte or did you move from somewhere?
I am from Mississippi.
Okay.
And by way of Birmingham, Alabama, where I really grew up. I became a man in Alabama. So we've been in Charlotte now at the time of this recording. It'll be 7 years in May. Okay. Yeah, not an original Charlottean, but I feel like one.
You got to see Charlotte go through some major transition.
Yeah.
Most definitely. So you did mention at the beginning that the church you're a part of, the church that you pastor, kind of came out of the protests that you guys were.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So in a nutshell, and you can find this anywhere all over the internet, our story is crazy. So at the time, I pastored another church called Word of Promise Christian Fellowship, and we had a wonderful community there, good God-fearing people, but there was no missional identity at the time. We were still figuring out who we were. We were just doing our best to fulfill the mission of Jesus Christ, and while still trying to survive the times. Yeah. So the church, from a business or your religious or nonprofit standpoint, metrics wise, was not surviving, and we were not going to be able to stay afloat. But more also too, the DNA to really serve your neighbor, love your neighbor, take care of the community you were planted in wasn't there, and that was an uphill fight. It was an exhaustive fight. And but we found ourselves mentoring the local Latino and Black youth in the inner city in West Charlotte. And we found ourselves with some wonderful volunteers, but also the police department. When we couldn't find any support from other local churches or other Christian believers within our faith, our law enforcement officers were there, mentoring, fixing food, feeding the community, serving the homeless, right there with us. So when the riots happened, we did feel a call of God and a push to get out there in the streets. And there we met protesters, activists, law enforcement, military officials, and so many more. Fox 46 at the time, was called Fox 46, heard about what we were doing in the community with law enforcement and wanted us to come on and share our story and our insight and perspective on how to move the city forward past what had happened in 2016. And what came out of that was beautiful relationships between a preacher, a protester, a news anchor, and a former police chief. Wow. And it was crazy how that whole thing happened and took off. And we began to do some amazing, innovative things together, some bold, outrageous things together. Yeah. Not everything worked out, but we were all proud of our efforts to be the change we wanted to see. Yeah. And not do the same thing that was done before, because that's insanity. But after a season of recovering, getting healthy, because I wasn't healthy, I wasn't in the best mental health shape, the best spiritual shape, just pouring out, working, and was not healthy at all. We took a step back, and that small group of people that stayed with us during that experience, stayed faithful to serve the neighborhoods and the community, turned into a small group Bible study, which turned into a family. So we really didn't build like a church. We really built a family. Yeah. And at the bedrock of this family, this spirit-filled, fun, authentic group. Like, we really call ourselves having thugs and theologians because there's such a variety and a diversity of people from different walks of life, different faiths. Some of them didn't come from faith. And all of us have the same thing in mind, the same heartbeat. That is, God first, family first, our community, our city first. And that's also... And now we have incredible work in Kampala, Uganda, and also in the city of Charlotte of just changing lives. And that's our thing. And that's how we got started. Yeah. And I'll tell you, being 100% honest with you,
Yeah.
And some clergy or pastors in the Christian faith may not tell you this, but this is a family and a missional group and a church and a legacy that even if I wasn't one of the pastors or the founder of, I would still want to rock with this because it's really about what it should be about.
Yeah.
And that's God and the people. And so yeah, it's pretty dope.
Love that.
Yeah, it's pretty dope. I'm not gonna lie,
It's amazing.
It's pretty dope. Yeah.
This is a hard question.
Is it?
When you look back over the last few years with this community that you've formed, is there an experience or a story that just really stands out that you want to share with us?
It's a lot of them.
I know. That's why it's a hard one. There's probably many.
I'll give you two.
Okay.
At the time of this recording, there was a point in my pastoring where my failure to address my health and my wellness and my addictions, right? Almost cost me my family, and ultimately would have cost me the honor of leading our church, because the Christian faith, unfortunately, at the time of this recording, has, ecumenically speaking, not majority, but mostly have lost our way. We've become, as I often say, a museum for the perfect, not a hospital for the broken. And there's so many leaders in the faith, pastors especially, who have dysfunctional families, dysfunctional wellness. They are broken, they are suffering, they are addicted, they are failing, and we are failing our people. We are not healthy, we are not well, but we have no safe space because we're expected to be super women or supermen and be successful. And I imploded, Sarah, and I almost lost it all. But I was so proud and so thankful for my wife, my therapist, my pastoral advisors, and my entire family, our church, for giving me the same grace and space that we had cultivated within them, that I could heal and not be superhuman. I can get my family restored. I can get restored, and I can be my authentic self and not have to be this facade. That I can be both anointed and spiritually gifted and able to change the world and still be superhuman, all kinds of jacked up, and them go through that with me. And to normalize that for them, their pastor, their spiritual leader, their spiritual big brother, their family member, even he's flawed and jacked up. But we see him pursuing being whole and being well and making it out of COVID and making it past things, then surely we can do it too. And there is nothing wrong with you. And you're not broken because you're flawed. You're not a failure because you make mistakes. No, like you're perfectly imperfect. And the second thing was losing my grandfather to COVID. I kind of wanted to wait to share this part in the interview, but this is a perfect moment even now. So I'm adopted, Sarah. Have you ever seen the movie The Blind Side with Sandra Bullock?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my movie. I say this all the time, so it's nothing new. Everybody in Charlotte's heard me say this, but it's just true. Except Big Mike played football, I played basketball. Okay. And so we don't have all the time to tell you the story of, so I have a white side of my family as well. And my biological grandfathers did not have the opportunity to be in my life and did not really choose to. I did have one grandfather, Grandpa Mickey, who was a part of my life. I just never got to grow up with him. I didn't have that honor of growing up with him. He was in Ohio and I was in Mississippi. But when I was adopted, my grandfather, Robert Giles, was a sarcastic, hard-working, family-focused, brilliant, but silly old white man whose values he instilled in us. Worked hard, love God, love your family, and live life. I never thought ever that I would lose him like we did. We lost him during the COVID pandemic. I'll never forget. And Granddad was active. We played basketball together, even in his 70s, even in his old age. We did things together. We were close. That was my dude. That was my friend. Yeah, Papa Bear was everything. And so he got COVID helping his brother, my late great Uncle Al. Going to Uncle Al wasn't well at the time, and Granddad went to help him around the house and just be a good brother.
Yeah.
And talked to Granddad that Monday. He was fine. Same sarcastic old white dude, cracking jokes, asking me was I sagging. I'm like, Granddad, I'm a almost 40-year-old pastor who works in law enforcement. I don't sag anymore, but I was still his grandkid. And then Wednesday I talked to my brother. My brother checked in. I'm like, Granddad's fine. He's fine. He's gonna be fine. He's gonna take some NyQuil or something. Then Thursday morning, getting that call from my mom that he had passed, and that was devastating.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. But coming out of that, being there for my granny, being there for my mom and my brothers and sisters, my cousins, and just us going through it as a family, that was a catalyst because it made me realize that life is indeed extremely short.
Yeah.
Right? So what do we do with the seconds that we have? So it leads to thinking more futuristically, more about the ending of a thing, right? Mm-hmm. And to be more intentional about every second and breath you have now. Because you're literally here one Monday and a Thursday you're gone.
Yeah.
And being able to communicate these principles, these values, and understanding that's kind of the most important thing, family. Being with those you love, making an impact, serving your neighbor, pursuing your dreams, going after your goals, not taking no for an answer, and discovering who you were meant to be and being the best version of yourself. That is it. And a lot of that is clarified because your purpose has a pattern. It's like a Google search history. Your purpose has a pattern. Mm-hmm. Since we were kids playing at recess to being grown adults now, there has been something about us that has one silver lining that can speak to what we're really called to do and to pursue that. And that's what I learned from my grandfather's transition was to make it count and to pursue that. And so, yeah, I know it's a lot. That's a great, hard question. Mm-hmm. Great, hard question. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing. And again, I'm so sorry for your loss.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah.
You never really know what it is to lose someone close to you until you go through it.
Do. Right.
Until you go through it. And I can say that I lost someone very close to me during COVID, too, from COVID. And
sorry to hear that, Sarah.
Yeah, it was really tough.
Yeah.
But for you, too.
Yeah, it clarifies some stuff, doesn't it?
It does. It does. It definitely puts things into perspective.
There you go.
Yes. So at the beginning of, before our talk, Pastor Theo, we did this activity called a hand map.
The hand map.
The hand map. Is there anything from your hand map that you would like to share with us?
If you want to ask me a question from the hand map, I'd love to answer it.
Okay.
But it was a cool exercise to allow me to kind of put to art what I had discovered about myself and what I know was about myself now going through this COVID pandemic season, this life-changing season. So, no, unless you ask a question. And there's someone I could share. Maybe you should ask a question. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. When you reflect upon the last few years, what do you think was you talked a little bit about the two major challenges that we faced, but do you think there's any long-lasting consequences, good or bad? Because consequences can go both ways.
Okay.
Do you think there's any long-lasting consequences that impacted you from COVID or from the impact of COVID?
Well, nothing is the same, right? Nothing, no way to do a certain thing. In the scope of serving, in the scope of changing your community, serving your neighbor, in the scope of working with law enforcement officers to make sure that they are spiritually well and their families are okay, in the scope of faith and leading a community to change the world and love their neighbors. What really matters will never take. The consequence is that what used to be a win isn't the win anymore. You can't do the same things like you used to because we see now that they don't really matter.
Yeah.
right? And I also believe, this is my personal belief, no one has to subscribe to this, but that there's going to be another COVID one day. Not another COVID, but there's going to be another catalyst that's going to shape the trajectory of our humanity. And someone's going to stir us up and wake us up to what really matters, right? And so the consequences of that, again, is focus.
Yeah.
Is how we do what we do. How we actually need each other more than ever. How futile life is. How some things don't really matter. And then to prepare, right? Because anything can happen.
Yeah.
You know? Not to neglect the disenfranchised, or the immigrant, or the sick, or the elderly, or those that don't look like you, or vote like you, think like you. Because what COVID did, COVID evened the playing field.
Yeah.
COVID evened the playing field. And so, how can you return back to your old way of thinking and the old way of doing a thing? And how can you find value, if not but caring for somebody else? And that's what it's all about. So those consequences for me, I can never go back, Sarah, to the way I thought, to the way I dreamed, to the way I treat people. And then you should never want to go back.
Yeah. For sure.
Even the pain and the trauma and the experiences that COVID represented, it made you better. You're the best version of yourself today. Not only because you came through it, but you can see clearer.
Yeah.
You're sharper. You don't really care too much about frivolity anymore. Small fish, low-hanging fruit, right? Your circle is smaller. Where you expand your energy, right? All that is important. Yeah.
It's very interesting. You said your circle is smaller.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It is. So I guess ultimately those are all good consequences. And who you are today and the change you continue to make in this world, in the lives of others, it costs you to be here. We both lost someone that we loved.
Yeah.
Right? That's life equity. That cost. It took something out of us.
Yeah.
Right? So we can't waste anything that we do after this. Because we can't get that back.
Come on. Preach it.
I know, right? I'm like,
as we are kind of we shifted from the lockdown, different transitions of regulations, and then now your kids are kind of back to a somewhat normal routine, right? The new norm, how we like to put it. How has that impacted you and your family and the kids particularly?
Well, coming back to some...
Yeah, going back to school, was it a challenge for them? Are they thriving? Are there challenges that you didn't see before that you see now?
There's nothing new under the sun. There's not new challenges. They are like Christmas presents wrapped differently, right? It's still the same principles and things you have to walk your children through. But what it is in the back of your head or behind your figurative shoulder, you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like when is the next pandemic or so you're always like mindful of where and what you allow your children to engage in, where you allow your family to engage in, because you can't, like, man, Sarah, you can't think in seconds anymore. You have to think in seasons. You can't think about today anymore. You have to think about tomorrow, right? how is this decision going to look tomorrow if tomorrow there's another pandemic?
Yeah.
If the world shuts down again, right? How am I putting my children and those I lovingly lead and the neighborhoods and communities that we in the world we're trying to change, how do we put them in the best position to be successful after I'm gone? You know, like, what are we talking about in the car ride? Like, you know, what are we doing on Friday nights? How am I preparing them? Will they be successful when the next pandemic comes if daddy is not present?
Yeah.
Right?
Are there some practical things that you've done in your life to incorporate that, to prepare if something were to happen?
Number one, go back to honesty. Then I'm going to listen. I'm honest with myself. What am I feeling? Where am I at? What do I need? Because I can't help anybody if I'm not well myself. I'm working towards that. So, what this has taught me is not to let myself off the hook. Make sure I'm celebrating my progress. Make sure you celebrate, you know, go get some drinks, go turn up, go scratch some off your bucket list. But make sure I'm progressing with that honesty, that I'm still trying to improve so that when the time comes, I'm healthy enough to help others. It's like you're on the airplane. In case of emergency, put on your mask before you put on anybody else's.
Yeah.
Number two, I listen, Sarah. And I talk a lot now. I talk a lot. I teach a lot. I share stories a lot. I travel and speak a lot.
Okay.
But I listen. And this is going to sound really, it might be the first time I actually say it like this. And I'm being so 100 and vulnerable and honest with you right now. But you know how they tell you, like, you should listen twice more than you speak? Yeah. And most people who talk a lot aren't good listeners. Now, am I a good active listener? No, I'm a dude. I'm a turd. I mean, it's hard to. No, I'm not saying I'm an active listener. What I am, though, is I'm listening to what I'm listening to. I'm listening to what I'm listening to.
Okay.
I listen to different podcasts. I listen to different news stations. I listen to different YouTube. I listen to different people who don't think like me.
Okay.
Right? I make myself listen and to listen to what I'm listening to so I can grow.
I like that.
So I can grow. So I can evolve. That's how this thing has impacted me, is that I have to continue to evolve. Because if I don't grow, that's not enough for what might be coming.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know it all, and I don't tend to pretend like I know it all, and tend to pretend, what is that? But like, no, let me be honest about where I am, and let me listen so I can learn how to be better. And then, most importantly, so I can show somebody else the same thing. The whole reason why we experience things is to trailblaze for somebody else. Mm-hmm. Like, I know that sounds cliche, but yo, for real.
It's true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, Pastor Theo. We are coming to respect your time and to honor you. We're coming to a close, but before we do,
come on.
Is there anything else that you want to share with us before we end today?
I think for me, and I want to share this as an emblem or an example that whoever's watching this can please, if you don't remember anything I just said, it's hard without my grandfather. It's hard without loved ones. It's never going to be easy. It gets better, but you just learn. It's like walking with a limp. You just learn to walk different. So I'm always going to miss my grandfather. I'm always going to miss. And those of us who lost loved ones to that COVID pandemic, we're always going to miss them. It's never going to be the same. Mm-hmm. We're human. Like, time heals all things. Not always. But we have to make their lives mean something. We have to make it count. We can't have gone through all of that and arrogantly decide to not evolve or change or grow or do better or to help somebody else, then what's the point? So I encourage you, Sarah, your team, those of you watching this from years to come, that you may feel unqualified, you may feel you don't have enough time. There might be always mitigating factors why we can't do something. But ultimately, people who were in our lives that we experienced that shared themselves with us, they gave us something. They gave us an experience. They gave us memories, right? Something. And they died, and they, but they were still selfless enough to leave us something. We gotta do something with that. Mm. And that's what it's all about. It's about leaving something behind because somebody left something for you behind.
Yeah.
Right? And that's how to live. No excuses. You can't do everything, but you gotta do something. Yeah. And the best way to help yourself to do something is to find somebody to do something for them. Every time. And that is the cheat code. That's the cheat code. So take it from somebody like me, who is a black man from Mississippi, adopted by a white family, who grew up in religious and non-religious communities, who had horrific but wonderful experiences, who ended up moving to Charlotte, who was a pastor who worked for the Popos, who started a family that's changing the world. I mean, come on, you can't get no more jacked up than that, right? And if I don't have any excuses, and if I'm still working on stuff, being perfectly imperfect, like, come on, man, surely you can too. You can do something, right? And then you leave behind a story worth telling, like the ones that we're doing at the Living Archives. Like how I did it there. Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah, I totally believe that. Yeah. Stories and everything. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Pastor Theo.
Oh, Sarah, thank you.